I don't know the debits and credits. And I'm just like, wow, I have an accounting degree and they're asking me to do this and they're asking me about the trial balance. I'm like, I was scared, to be honest. And I had all these things lined up you think would be like enough for you to just make the jump, but it's still scary to walk away from a steady paycheck.
What would you say to somebody who is now in your shoes a year ago or a little over a year ago, wanting to start their firm? What would you recommend to them?
My advice to them is, and I think for everybody, is just to talk to more people. Like most of these people are at large firms and they're around super intelligent people dealing with super complex tax stuff. But when you step down a few rungs, you cannot believe the stuff that gets filed from CPAs, EAs. That's like what the work itself is getting put out there. So it kind of gives you some confidence, like, wow, like I know a lot more and like, I can't believe people are getting paid to put out this not stellar work.
Henry, how do I pronounce your last name?
Huie. Henry
Huie. Okay, I would have done you a disservice if I was gonna try it. So I'm glad. Henry Huie. Nice to meet you, man. I've been following you for a while on LinkedIn. You're always putting out some really good content around people who want to start their own firms. You're sharing your journey. I also recently saw the little highlight of you from Future Firm. So that little like tidbit that Ryan put out there. And that was really cool. So having you on the show, on the Fun CPA Pod, where we talk about all things that are business ownership when it comes to the CPA world and the accounting industry in general. So why don't you give us a little introduction? Tell us a little about yourself, man. Give us a little 1-minute story.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Yuri. For me, I think if hopefully a lot of people know me. If they don't know me, all my stuff's on LinkedIn. But my accounting journey started at Deloitte, Big Four, audit. Did that for about 5 years. Actually, 2 years, I take it back. And I went over to a local boutique firm. Did that for 2 years until they were acquired by Eide Bailly. And I don't know, had some kind of epiphany. Another friend of mine created tax or went into tax before they started their own firm. And that was the goal, is that it's easier to start a firm in tax. And so got me intrigued, kind of got burned out with audit at the 5-year mark. So switched to tax within Eide Bailly. COVID hit, opened up the doors to work for other firms. California, just open and honestly, they just pay more. I get paid more. I could work remote. So I switched firms then realized I was super valuable, I think, in the marketplace, and the billable hours model just did not make sense to me. And so that's when I made the transition and started my own firm. And as you talked about, I'm trying to share my journey. I follow a lot of Alex Hormozi, and he's like, he wished Bezos and Buffett would have shared their journey along the process. And you're a business owner. We just go through so many things. We make so many decisions. We do things that just like boom, boom, boom. You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to share my journey along the way, because people have so many questions like, how did you do this? Why did you do that? And I'm like, you just do it. Don't even think about it, right?
Yeah.
But for them, it's so profound. They're like, I wouldn't even thought about doing that. I'm like, well, when you're a business owner, you have to think faster. And there's a lot more decisions you make as a business owner than when you were an employee. So that's my story, and that's my continuous journey that I'm going through right now.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there, and I have a lot of thoughts on what you said, and it's interesting. Like for me, sharing on LinkedIn obviously serves two purposes. You got the purpose of course, you're sharing and you're adding value to others, which is what we're doing here, and we'll be talking about a lot of the stuff that you talk about. But the other side of it is for your own self and for my own self, because that journey, that ability to then go back maybe down the line and just remember those moments that I'm 3 years in, right? And I look back at some of those days and some of those moments where I've had and go, whoa, I did. Oh yeah, I remember that. And it came off of a LinkedIn post, not so much like my memory, because we just kind of roll through it and truck along and make all those decisions you said. But let me step back for a second. I want to pick your brain about this, because I want to go way back to like college. And the reason I want to go there is because you started in audit. And I think for all the listeners that are going to be listening that are in public accounting, maybe in school or early on in their careers, I know I personally was pushed heavy into audit in school, but I went against the grain and I went into tax anyway from the start. What was your decision, or what was your rationale for audit, or was it just like, I don't know, that's what's open, or that's what people are pushing me for?
I went into audit. I think it gave me. So if you look at my profile, so I didn't go in. I went back to school. So I'm a finance major, so I experienced the 2008 financial crisis, and so stability was really important. So I went to accounting, and so when I went to accounting, it was audit or tax was pretty much the two paths. And audit just gave me more, I want to say, options. And so I went to audit, and there's just a lot more auditors than tax people. And of course, the audit people think we're so much more
Yeah.
social than tax people, right? You get to go out to the field, you get to
Oh,
talk to
totally.
people, right? And so like that makes sense. And so I just went the audit route just for the breadth of options, as well as I just met more people in audit. And of course, when you go into recruiting, they're always going to say the best things.
Yep.
I don't even know if I talked to that many tax people.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, so I went that route. Just had a lot more options, and I enjoyed the people that I met along the recruitment process.
I gotcha. Yeah, for me, it was interesting. I definitively remember this moment when I applied to McLadgery over, in New York City, and I was going into the interview, and I'm sitting there in this little group with all the other candidates, and everybody's asking, "Oh, you do an audit or tax, audit or tax?" And I remember I was the only one in tax in that like 10 people or 15 people group. And I remember everybody was like, "Oh, tax, why are you doing tax? Like they're not even hiring for tax or whatever." I just distinctly remember that moment. But I'm always curious about people's journeys, especially those that switched. And was your primary reason, I think you kind of mentioned it before, was it because you saw yourself being a firm owner down the line and that was the easiest path to get to that with tax?
Yeah, I think the ability to have my own firm was a big factor. And then also, I really enjoy accounting, and I don't want to leave the profession. But I was already burned out with audit, and even the pathways within industry didn't appeal to me. And so, like,
Yeah.
God, that just sounds so miserable. I was like, tax seems interesting. And eventually, like, I could have my own firm, even if not, I liked what the people in the tax side were doing. And so
Yeah.
I went that direction, and it's been really enjoyable. And then we went through the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which
Yeah.
made you like learn a lot more, and in a way, kind of put us all on like a level playing field because everybody had to learn. It wasn't
It's true.
a whole bunch of stuff, and so like I like to feel smart, I guess, and so like to
Yeah.
like know all this kind of stuff, and then like you have seasoned tax people that didn't know these stuff that I learned. I was like, like
Yeah.
pat on my shoulders. So, but yeah, primary one, being able to potentially start your own firm is so much easier with a tax practice than an audit practice.
For sure.
And when I talked to my tax partner, he even said like having an audit background is super beneficial in the tax world. So all that experience was not like lost, right? I think that's a lot of people are
100%.
afraid of, is all this accounting knowledge if they go into a different field or even within accounting, like all of it's going to be lost. But it's all foundational.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I am 100% agreeing with that too, because I think, to me at least, when it comes to the bookkeeping side of things, I feel like if I had the audit background, my whole experience, my whole 14 years is in tax. And if I wish I had more of that audit, more of that like bookkeeping, like hands-on feel, because even at the smallest firm that I've been at, it wasn't that great from a learning the QuickBooks, because we weren't like deep in it. So those foundational things that you got from being an audit are huge for you.
What's funny is I got that when I joined the local boutique firm. And working at Big Four, you work with these Fortune 100 companies, and they have a full on accounting team, and like you rarely make any adjusting entries, if ever. So when I went into that local boutique firm, like they asked me to make adjusting entries for these clients, or they're called PAGIs, past adjusting journal entries. I think that's what
Yeah.
they're called. I was just like, I don't know the debits and credits. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
wow, I have an accounting degree and they're asking me to do this and they're asking me about the trial balance. I was like, deer in the
Yeah.
headlights. But that was a process I learned. And I think that is one of the issues I try to bring up is like, why can't we graduate from somebody that has an accounting degree should be able to like do basic financials or do a basic 1040.
For
But
sure.
that's just my opinion. I get a lot of pushback saying that you don't want to spend too much time on that, which I'm not saying a whole bunch of time, but just at least have that. I don't think it takes that much to learn how to do a basic 1040 or do basic financials, but
Yeah, but
different opinions.
the bookkeeping is definitely something that is more relevant, and and that I wish I had more experience, quite frankly, because I struggle with that. But I want to also ask about, so in that time you were in Citrin, you were in the I Bailey, which is the smaller firm that then became I Bailey. What was that pivotal moment for you, like for you when you had that moment where you said, "This is it. Like I gotta go out on my own. Like I'm done doing this." Was there like a particular moment, or was it just a build up?
I would say it's a buildup. My kids were, I don't know how old they were at the time. They're 3 and 5 right now. So I guess 2, 2 and 4. Got some advice from my aunt. They are very well off financially. And, she always tells us, my wife and I, was like, you guys are so lucky, to have kids. And my one regret is, she goes, if you could stay at home with them while they're young, like I would. That's like one of my biggest regrets. And of course, we look up to them. Like they have so much money. Their kids are super
Yeah.
successful financially, but they don't have any grandkids. And I'm just like, all right. I asked the question. I believe in that advice. Time
Yeah.
over money. Money's important. Don't get me wrong. It's not just only time.
Yeah.
And so that was one of them. It's like, God, there's just no way to reduce the hours in the billable hours model. Like, no matter how good I get, the 55 hours are always going to be there.
Yep.
And so there's that. And then I think people started having to return to office like 2 days a week. And I could see the writings on the wall, and like remote workers are getting kind of in discussion. I don't think we were getting as high of promotions because they're trying to lure people more into the office, which I get. We're saving so much money on commuting costs, and I'm just like, I shouldn't get penalized when I'm still
Yeah.
producing the work where I think is valuable. And then also just the whole billable hours model. At that level, I had a lot of value to bring to the table that I would get penalized if I was super efficient.
Oh yeah.
And so my vision was I wanted to make more and work less.
Yeah.
That was the only way to do that, was to start my own firm. So yeah, those two things: spending more time with my kids when they're young, and also just making more and working less, which
Yeah.
also means you have to have a higher level of value to bring in order to be able to do that. It's not just do the
Yeah.
same thing and just like work less and
Yeah.
charge more.
Yeah. No, this is, I mean, you're unpacking a lot of stuff. I can definitely resonate with the fact that with the kids and them being little and being home with them and quite honestly, I don't even know how I'll be able to like work at a firm at this point. Like, and the reason for that, like, my day is so crunched. Like right now it's 1:50 in my time, almost 2 o'clock. My son comes home at 3:30 from the school bus. My daughter goes to daycare. I try to go work out at the gym. Looks like you do,
Thanks.
and so it's like, to me, I'm like, there's no, like, if I was working at a firm and they were looking for me to produce some hours, like my day literally starts at 11 o'clock and ends more or less at 3:30 when my son comes home. At least this is what it is currently. Obviously in tax season, I got to figure something out with this gym thing in the morning, but that's the beauty of it, right? That's what we're building. But I don't know about you. Like for me, like that's all I can do. I can't even do more than that. Like it's that tight.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Having a firm allows you to create your day however you want. I try to structure my days a little bit more. Um,
How do you structure them?
so this is recent. So I consume a ton of YouTube content, and I follow Alex Hermosi and Layla Hermosi a lot. And the most recent one I listened to was about productivity for manager days and maker days. And if you get a chance to listen to that, the main thing that I got from it was like so like eye-opening was manager days are primarily consist of meetings and like 15-minute chunks, right? Like that's what managers think about, all these meetings. That's fine.
Right.
Maker days, where you're deep into the work, are like broken into like 4-hour or like 8-hour days, which means if you're doing, so that means in one day you could have 1 or 2 hour chunks of time to work. And so if you have a meeting in one of those days or one of those chunks, it's like, in a way, it kind of ruins your whole day.
True.
And so I was like, oh my God, I was like, I need to separate these days and like take no meetings. On these maker days, I'm working on things, not get distracted and go through them, because I'm sure you know, like once you take a phone call, take a meeting, you're like, now you got to jog up your memory of like the holistic tax picture of this person. And you're like, you could write all these notes, but then you got to review them again. I was like, oh my God, that what helped me understand of like why I like have the same amount of hours. Like maybe it's 7.5 hours versus 8 hours, but I felt like I didn't get as much done. And that's a lot of times what it is like it broke my like maker hours. So I have Tuesdays and Thursdays are my maker days. Mondays are my manager days. Wednesday and Friday are like hybrid for right now. And so that's how I structure my day. And then my day to day, I just try to keep it structured, because if I don't keep it structured, I just enjoy my day too much. So I start my day off at work probably around 9:30. I walk my kids to school or my daughter to school. Their school's super close by.
Nice.
And then I start my day at 9:30. Try to have meetings, like I said, on Mondays. Right now on my maker days, it's creating templates. I'm a big template person. And so I'm happy to share these templates with you as well. And so right now I'm working on a lot of templates, 2024 tax planning, sales and marketing, and things like that. And the meetings are, I guess the meetings are also the potential clients, networking opportunities. And then my day, I try to end my day at 5. So I think my day's a little longer than yours. But you're 3 years in, I'm 1 year in, and I'm not at my income or production level that I want to be at. So still working on that stuff.
But to be honest, I mean, I'm 3 years in, but I'll be honest. I mean, some days, man, I feel like I'm all over the place. So to your point, I'm getting some notes out of this with the maker days versus the manager days. A concept of some sort of schedule is important, because we only have a certain amount of window of work. It's in my earlier days, to be perfectly honest with you, Amy, I share it all the time, right? I was contracting. Like I was basically contracting 2 days a week. So you could call that my maker days, but they were maker days for the firm that I was contracting for. I got paid $75 an hour, to $100 an hour, give or take. It was keeping the lights on while I was growing my firm and doing my meetings and doing my networking and doing this and that and building what I wanted to have down the line, But I love that you just crossed when is a year? It's like now. I see October 2023.
Yeah. So it was I quit like October 16th, the day after 10/15. I actually gave him notice like 3 months before.
Nice.
And so I'm really big on relationships. I just wanted to like hopefully everybody understands. Like I read the book The Go-Giver, and like relationships for me have been really important. And I gave notice probably about 3 months before I quit. And I was like, why'd you give him so much notice? They could have fired you right there. I'm like, because I don't like I knew that, and I was financially prepared. But I just assumed, and I was correct, that like they could use the help until 10/15. I try to like, work hard and keep that relationship there. But I quit October 16th and started my firm. So it's been exactly 1 year, and it's been quite a journey. And probably if I get time, look through all my LinkedIn posts.
So I want to dive down. I want to jog your memory, and we'll go down that line, because I got my own memories, and a year from now, you just hit a year, which is awesome. So tell me, so when you first started, it seems to me like you're like a kind of like schedule, like you're more methodical about the way you go about things, and that's the vibe I get. So when you first started, like, was it, let me try to get clients in the door? Was it, let me try to get my processes first? Like, what was your mentality then versus now?
I think it's probably still similar, but when I started last year, October 16th, the process actually started like a year before that. I
Okay.
joined Ryan Lazanis' Future Firm Accelerate program because I liked his lifestyle cycle of his firm, where he had monthly recurring revenue, and he was really focused on the time freedom, and he sold his firm. I mean, I don't have any plans to sell my firm, but I am building my firm for it to be sellable when that time comes, or
Yeah.
anytime. And so I started with that, and then I was listening to those things. You have to have systems and processes. He talks about niching down, um, and then for me personally, I needed the financial stability or certainty. So I saved 6 to 12 months of living expenses. And so I set everything up even before I started, like the system processes. I got the software. I did my own taxes. I did some friends and family's taxes for free. I had to like almost create my own internship before
Yeah.
I did it. And it really came a conversation with my wife where I had all these things set up, right? I had 6 to 12 months living expenses. I have all my software. I have my tech stack. I talked to my peers that started their own firms, all of them. I talked to various people, and they gave me the best advice. And then my wife really had to say, like, can I cuss on this? I don't even know. Or are you going to bleep
Yeah,
that
of course.
out?
Oh yeah, no.
My wife's like, hey, you have all this stuff. Like, you really need to shit or get off the pot. I was like, I support you. I was just like,
Let's go.
okay. And I was like, I was scared, to be honest. And I had all
Very
these
scary.
things lined up that like you think would be like enough for you to just make the jump, but it's still scary to walk away from a steady paycheck. And you just have to think about mentally, like, what could go right, and what's wrong if you fail. Like, I don't even know what failing is, but like if I have to dip into my 6 to 12 months living expenses, that's what it's there for.
Yeah.
I had a conversation. I actually cold emailed, Mike Payne from Boss Advisors.
Yeah, I see him on LinkedIn a lot.
So I cold outreached him, and he was nice enough to hop on a phone call with me, and he told me, he's like, you want to do some contract work, so that way you can build the firm of your ideal clients, and so you can say no to your non-ideal clients. I was like, that's such good advice. And so
Yeah.
took his advice, and I did that. And like, that's why I'm in a much better situation than a lot of people, because I get it. You got to put food on the table, especially if you have a family. So you'll say yes to those $500 returns, yes to those $250 returns, yes to those bookkeeping cleanups that you undercharge for. Like,
Yeah.
but I tell people, like, you got to eventually stop, right? You want to stop earlier than later, because then you become known as the low cost provider, or now you just have too many clients to service. And what do you do? Just like sell them, or just say, sorry, go to H&R Block. And then you kind of build that, like, that relationship, right?
You are in my brain, and obviously I post a lot about it, but this is exactly what I'm a firm believer in this. You're better off having that like buffer of the contracting work, so you can build it the way you want, because the worst thing you can do, and again, I totally get it too. I don't think there's anything wrong with volume firms if that's what you want to do, and if you build your systems around that. I got 100 clients, they're value-based clients. They pay a good amount of money. Some are monthly, some are quarterly, and some are tax only. And we're gonna dive. I do want to dive into like kind of the methodology with the monthlies, but but to me, like 100% what you said. If you have been charging people $200, $300, just to put food on the table, and I get that, it's so important. How do you get out of that? You can't just all of a sudden go from 300 to 1,000 minimum to everybody who has been with you, because that's going to leave a sour taste. And so removing that, and removing that stigma, removing that what you're known for, that becomes extremely difficult. So I'm 100% with you to building it the smart way. Will take time. It is not fast. It is steady and methodical and where you want to be. And so I dig that a lot. But so can we, take me now to like kind of like the tech stack you've got, the kind of processes that you have, and then I would love to talk about like the aspect of billing monthly for everything versus like quarterly or tax only.
Yeah, so my process is always starting off with a discovery call. My discovery calls are free as of right now. And one thing with the discovery call or even the front end of building the client relationship or the rapport is we're all about speed, automation, AI and stuff. But like that process that I think I learned from Ryan Lazanis is that you want that process to be slow.
Yeah.
Right. You want to build that relationship, like true relationship, right? Get to know them, get to know their business, because that literally helps you in your business of what to offer them, what they need, right? Like,
Yeah. And it differentiates you too.
yeah. So that process is discovery call, building rapport, understanding what they need, and seeing if you can be a good fit. 'Cause I have no problem referring people out or letting them know that I'm not a great fit because, you one, there's more than enough work out there, and two, like you want to make sure like they're taken care of, and like when they know something that fits your model, then they'll hopefully refer to you.
Yep.
And I use TaxDome. I think you also use TaxDome as well.
Yep.
Fantastic. It has engagement letters that you also can customize or bring in your own.
Yeah.
They have e-signatures in there. They have a secure online portal
Yep.
that everybody brings their stuff into. There's also secure messaging, which can be super helpful when you have a team that all the messaging is there, so you can like keep all the communication.
Yeah. I
In
like
one
that
spot.
part.
So so there's that. And then my tax software is Drake Tax.
Me too.
Yeah, I would like to transition to CCH Access, but I don't think I need it quite yet. I'm just more familiar with it, and I think that's the eventual goal. What else do I have? I use CCH Scan to organize all my source documents for the 1040s because I'm just used to that. And
Yeah.
I have a contractor and I want to give them something that they can follow, right? A lot of times you just tell them Sally, right? If I can give them Sally,
Yeah.
they have a good layout of the source document. I also use a 1040 reconciliation template that matches the taxes. So I do a lot of extra work, but I'm trying
Yeah.
to build good work papers for someone to follow, as well as it helps me organize because sometimes I go back in my tax work after I have these all wherever, and I'm like, God,
Yeah.
this is so disorganized, and it's hard to like go back to tell the client I had this last year. What else do I use? Obviously, QuickBooks Online. I pay for PD Flyer, which is just like Tic Tac calculate similar, just to mark up the PDFs.
Nice.
I use Tally 4. So Tally 4, you have your QuickBooks trial balance, you import it into Tally 4. It's similar
cool.
to Caseware Pro System Engagement, and you can put their accounts into their right tax buckets, and then it'll
Yeah.
import it into Drake. It's not perfect. It does, I think, 80% of it.
Okay.
But that's still helpful. What else do I use? I think those are the main ones I use. I have a one-page guide that I give people that I put what my tech stack is on there.
Nice.
But yeah, my main ones I really enjoy are TaxDome. I guess, yeah, primarily TaxDome.
Yeah. I'm on Drake too, and I'm right there with you. I've been toying with that idea of switching over into like an Intuit product or like you said, CCH Access. I've used CCH in the bigger firms Access, but every time I think about it, I'm like, but Drake is fine. Like that's my whole thing. Like it's good. I honestly love their customer service.
Mm-hmm.
Like that ability to call that 828 number and literally somebody picks up within like 5 seconds and then they help you and they're actually helpful. Like, damn, man. And then the e-file qualification part where, you get all the messages and stuff and clearing those is so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time I think about it, I go, I don't want complexity anymore, like in my practice. I just don't want it. So for me, Drake is great. I don't have complex clients. It's not that bad. I get to decide what I want to work on, and Drake does the job. But I do every once in a while feel like professionally, from a output standpoint, sometimes Drake could do a little better.
Yeah, I have a lot of templates outside of Drake that I use to kind of like verify, right? Like
Yeah.
the base, I have basis templates. What else? I guess basis templates, the 1040 reconciliation. Sometimes the state stuff gets a little tricky. I'm not sure how it is with like
Yeah.
New York and stuff. 'Cause I feel like New York and California are the trickier states. I think even maybe Illinois or something like that. But yeah, I mean, you can't beat the price. It's like, what is it? $2,200 for unlimited.
Yeah.
I mean, CCH has CCH Essentials, and I think I toyed with that, and it's like 100 returns or 200 returns for like $3,500, and you got to pay for each 1041, each state,
Yeah.
because they think give you 5 or something like that. And so Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm going through Drake for 2024 as well, but that's just something
Yeah.
I'm looking at. But who knows? I mean, like you said, Drake is fine. They're all the same tax forms, right? Like it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It's just
it
it's
should.
just a matter of presentation, your comfort with it, and the longer you do it, the less likely you are to switch. I mean, they all know that, right? Like that's at the end of the day how it goes, because it's a hard commitment, and the scary thing is the rollovers, because the moment you switch is the moment where you got to go back, make sure all the rollovers are good, and everything came over good, and every single client that hurts. So let's talk about the pricing aspect. You know, everybody always wants to know. Everybody wants to talk about that. I love this conversation because to me, I have 3 packages. I checked out your website too. I really like the way you did it. Very definitive, very explicitly stating what is included in each one. Mine is so I got a tax only, which basically is like, you know, tax return only in one meeting. And then the payment is when the tax return is done. So, you know, April, whatever. Then I got a quarterly plan. So, you know, the clients would pay quarterly. And when they pay quarterly, they book the meeting. That's what I'm working on right now, actually, on the back end. So that they pay them out and it forces you to make that meeting for the quarter. Then we just, you know, then they prepare for it. We discuss and then, you know, discuss estimates and do all the tax planning. And then there is the monthly, which is all inclusive with the bookkeeping and all that. So for you, all of your plans are monthly?
So that's the direction I'm moving towards. So
Okay.
I recently joined PASBA. If you're familiar with that group, I'm actually going to their conference in like 2 weeks. So they are, God, the thing is like professional accountants for small business owners or something like that.
Okay.
But I heard that name a lot, like through Jackie Meyer, Greg O'Brien, and I like that model where you are helping business owners with their, essentially, pretty much their outsourced accounting department, taxes, bookkeeping, payroll, and things like that. So I just kind of transitioned. I only have a couple clients on monthly. Majority of my clients are on annual, but I
Got it.
could probably convert them because they also do the tax planning and they reach out throughout the year.
Yeah.
So I'm slowly transitioning that direction because that's kind of what my value proposition is when I first started, is having access to me throughout the year,
Yeah.
being proactive. Like I can't really turn off tax planning. Like I know people do separate like tax plans.
Yeah.
But I think at the very minimum, if you saw my packages, is like minimum is year-end tax planning to help them get introduced to what tax planning is, how much you could save, but also
Yeah.
just tax projections. Even if you don't want to implement any strategies, you should know how much taxes you owe by the end of the year, or pretty darn close to it. And it also helps me out, right? I know
Yeah.
what your tax situation is going to look like, and it makes my tax season significantly easier. So,
100%.
but yeah, I'm moving that direction. So majority of my clients are still on, what you call, essentially
Tax prep,
annual,
basically.
tax prep and tax planning,
Yeah.
and they pay 50% upfront as a retainer, and then 50% on the back end when it's completed. So yeah, you kind of caught me when I switched probably my pricing on my website like maybe a month ago. But yeah, that's the direction I want because.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm delivering the value, I think the monthly works. I know you probably see Brandon Hall. Brandon Hall did the whole monthly thing,
Yeah.
and he's like, he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
But I think his model probably fits better with the upfront. I don't know, maybe if it's $5,000 and then you pay $2,000 for the
Yeah.
tax prep, because he said when you're paying monthly, clients are like, I'm not getting anything.
Yeah.
So
This is what I've realized, and this is my big take on not going to monthly, and not going to monthly only for everything. And the reason for that is I like to align the service with the payment, right? When a tax only, even if there's a little bit of planning towards the end, but let's just say tax only, when there's a tax only client that's there, and they're paying monthly, every time they pay for the first 3 to 4 payments, they'll be okay. You won't hear anything from them and then eventually this thing creeps into their mind and they're like, what am I paying for? Right. And then, yeah, I'm paying for the taxes. Yeah, but he's not doing anything. Every time they make that payment, it's like a little light in their head that they have to do something. And then it's either they might call you on every month, or they might like do something every month. And like, they feel like they need to get some sort of value for the payment. I found that by doing the quarterly, and I'm getting more and more quarterly, because my big thing is I want you to know what your tax is going to be every single quarter, at least estimated amount. Because again, like you said, it helps you, it helps me. But that's what I want for my clients to have the comfort of. And to me, then they're paying and they're aligning that service. Oh, I'm having a call. Okay, I'll pay $1,500 or $2,000. And then we have the call, and then it's like something happened, so they paid. The monthly, the bookkeeping piece, they pay every month, and they get their books done every month. So that was my biggest struggle and biggest reason for not spreading it. But I get the benefit, man. Like, because if I could get my, I'm for the tax season, I'm right around 140. I'll probably be around 150 for this upcoming tax season, in just tax season only fees. I would love to spread that plus the monthly plus the quarterly and have it all monthly. But I just feel like there's going to be some friction with it.
Yeah, I think so. On my last meeting with Paz, but they were talking about this, and they're talking about like a $1,200 return and having them pay $100 a month or $1,800, $150, right? Yeah. But I think with that one, like you are right. Clients want to associate like what they're paying for the service, but I think it depends on. And they said that you have to communicate that to them. So like, if you are converting monthly and there's not real like service provided throughout the year, just let them know, say, hey, maybe give them the option, or just say, hey, we're just pricing this way. We're probably not going to talk during these months, but we're just splitting out your costs that you would pay at the end of the year, which is $1,200 or $1,800. And we're splitting it out from January 1st to December 31st. And that's all it is. So don't expect anything throughout the year, but you do have access to me. So when you call, so I think a lot of it's just the communication, where it's just split between 12 months, as opposed to, I'm your monthly accountant or I'm your quarterly accountant, and we're going to have all these meetings. And so I think it's just the expectations. But right now, since I'm transitioning, I give them options. I thought a lot of clients wanted to do the 50% upfront, 50% on the back end, but I talked to a financial advisor, and it's like I think the price I gave him was like $3,500. I was like, yeah, you pay 50% up front, 50% on the back end. And the dude makes like $400,000, right? Didn't think anything of it. He's like, do you do like monthly payments? And I was like, yeah, we can. I was like, so I was like, yeah, it's still gonna be the same price. We're just gonna split it between 12 months, and it'll be go from this day to this day. And so, I'm good either way. But the goal is for monthly which are business owners, so they do find the value, right? So they do have the bookkeeping, or they do have things going on where the value can be associated with the price and the service, or the payment and the service. Yeah, for sure. And the other concern obviously would be, obviously they're going to sign the agreement, but at the end of the day, if you sign them up January 1st and you're doing the monthly, one, you got to figure out if they start January 1st of 2025, but you got to do the 2024 return. There's got to be a separate payment for 2024, because presumptively you're prepaying 2025's tax return / whatever other offer, fees you're going to do in 2025. But if they start prepaying 2025 and they leave 6 months in, you're good, right? But if you're somehow collecting for prior, so it has to be that functionality of like, if they dip out 6 months in, are you screwed? Yeah, that was the question I had, and talking with people that are on monthly. I think one, it's just the types of clients they have. They are business owners. Another one I follow is Dylan Business Advisors. Their monthly minimum is like $1,500 a month. Whoa. And they charge a $7,500 I know what the word is, like almost like, I don't want to say startup fee, but it's initial. I don't want to say initial. There's a different word for it. I can't even think of it right now. But it's like $7,500 to pretty much get everything set up, right? Make sure their chart of accounts are good, make sure the payroll's good, and look at all their taxes in, right? They're dealing with a different level of clients. Yeah. And what that means is like, for them, they're getting, it's still worth their time, because they said you can cancel any month. So even if they cancel after the first month, they've already gotten the $7,500 plus the $1,500. And even if you do a whole bunch of work, and maybe even after you finish their tax return, it's still, I think beneficial from a financial standpoint, but also just what actually happens. That many people cancel. So I
Agreed.
think that's what they bank on. Same with PASPA. They're like, you have to, people will leave, right? And if they like sign up January 1st and it's for, I don't know, 2023 taxes, and they leave right after you like file their taxes. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's why sometimes people charge that upfront startup cost or whatever it is. So that way, if they do, worst case scenario,
Yeah.
it's okay. But also just looking at the other clients. It's like maybe they're like a 99% retention ratio or 97% retention ratio. And
Yeah.
you get burned by a couple clients. Like it still works out from the grand scheme because
Agreed. I think
like
in the grand scheme,
yeah.
yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, people will stay. You obviously you're providing great service. You're taking care of your clients. Nobody's leaving just because of that. So it's just a fear that a lot of folks have in their mind. I think more so than anything else, clients are okay with it and all that. I want to kind of start, when we think about kind of wrapping up
Yeah.
and in general, like what I want to talk about and what I want to leave off with is some advice from you. I know we talked about a lot of stuff here, which I think is a huge, huge help to anybody that's looking to start their own firm. But what would you say to somebody who is now in your shoes a year ago or a little over a year ago, wanting to start their firm? What would you recommend to them?
Oh, I literally, before this, I had a phone call with somebody in the exact same shoes. And my advice to them is for them, and I think for everybody, is just to talk to more people. Like most of these people are at large firms and they're around super intelligent people dealing with super complex tax stuff.
True.
But when you step down a few rungs, it's like the wild, wild west. You cannot believe the stuff that gets filed from CPAs, EAs, and that's like
Oh yeah.
what the work itself is getting put out there. So it kind of gives you some confidence, like, wow, like I know a lot more, and like I can't
Yeah.
believe people are getting paid to put out this not stellar work. And on top of that, when you deal with like different types of clients, your basic standard level of knowledge is like gold to them. You're like,
Yes.
they just feel so, your knowledge is so much more impactful to them. And so my
True.
advice is just to talk to people, right? Talk to financial advisors. And you have to learn sales and marketing, and it's different from our perspective because it's not salesy. I tell them you're just asking questions. And some of the questions when you talk to financial advisors, like, hey, like ask them about their clients, like what are their tax problems? Where do you send their tax people to, and like are they serving them correctly, or is there a disconnect between the tax planning and the investment planning piece of it? If you could send them to a better CPA, like what kind of things would you want from them? Because I'm looking to start my own firm and I want to be able to be different and to be better.
Good.
And also just talking with friends and family, like, oh, are you happy with your CPA or tax professional? Like, oh, you are? Like, what are they doing that you enjoy, right? Then you can also
Yeah.
pick up stuff like that if they don't want to leave. Oh my God, they're so terrible, right? Most people are complaining about their CPAs right now. We're so busy. We don't respond to their phone calls. We're not proactive, and different things like that. And so when I first started, I felt like it was like you just had to do basic things like answer your phone
True.
call. I got praised for answering my phone call, answering my text messages, right?
So
And then
true.
just being proactive, like
Yeah.
helping them, give them ideas. Like if you put money here in a retirement account, that'll save you money, but it does require some money.
Yeah.
Or real estate. Oh my God, what is depreciation? I've never taken depreciation. I'm just like, oh, okay, well, it's this cool little non-cash expense, right?
Yeah. That's nuts.
Um, right. And so, yeah, anybody wants to start is follow. That's what I post on is I think the profession's great. And I think the ultimate goal is to have your own firm. And there's a whole bunch of people to follow on LinkedIn, on YouTube is like, Jason Stats, Logan Graff and things like that. But also
Yeah.
just talk to more people of the people that you are potentially going to work with. And like I said, you'll be surprised how much you know
100%.
and like how low the standard of service
Unfortunately, it's
needs to
true.
be. I know. And so that's fair, right? But when
Yeah.
you're at the big firms, you're dealing with high level people, super intelligent people, very sophisticated taxpayers that aren't impressed by
Yeah, anything.
these tax strategies. Yeah, right. And so yeah, that's my advice,
true.
just to talk to more people. So
It's true. When you're in the big firms and when you're in all these like monster firms, you think you set the standard is set so high and you feel like you can't bypass that when you're on your own. But just like you said, you will be mind blown as to the level of service you can provide, knowing what you know from the big firms. And to your point, I want to also add LinkedIn is a huge contributor to a lot of growth. For me, it's not, I don't look for clients on LinkedIn, but B2B wise, where you get to connect with financial planners, attorneys, other tax professionals, other accountants, bookkeepers. For people who just have bookkeeping firms, have been a huge source in that way as well. And so to me, getting on LinkedIn, starting to post, value-driven content that resonates with folks, whatever it may be, you'll get there eventually. I still try to figure it out every day, as to what works, what doesn't work. And then connecting with people in that way, driving your personality, your approach and all that, and just being yourself is really the biggest thing you can do, and it's like free advertising, and then people connect with you. And that's kind of how a lot of those relationships start. So I really think that LinkedIn is, obviously that's how we met. So,
yeah,
it's just endless opportunities in that way. Yeah, man, I always like to leave the show and off and have everybody, how can people reach you? From your standpoint, what is it? Kind of give yourself the plug.
Yeah, I think I'm probably the most active on LinkedIn. If you are looking to start your own firm, or just to ask questions, or just connect, is going to be on LinkedIn. Henry Huie. Assuming you'll have my name on the podcast.
Yep.
Trying to also increase my content on Instagram, but definitely probably more so LinkedIn would probably be the best avenue.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for coming through the show. We appreciate everything you're doing for the profession, for yourself, for your family, for everything, and really rolling out that accounting does not have to be boring.
Yeah.
And you can, join in that Fun CPA movement. So thanks again for being on the show, and looking forward to see what else you're going to have planned coming up.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Yuri.
You got it, man.